Good afternoon. I'm Laura Zervos. I'm a registered dietitian and licensed nutritionist, and I'm so happy to be here today for Lending Hearts and discuss some of trying to savor the last bites of summer and trying to take advantage of those foods that are seasonal right now and that are fresh and at the peak ripeness. And that's always, I say it all the time, but it's true. That's when they are at their not only the peak ripeness and peak flavor, the best cost, and they are plentiful. So it's good to get them now while they have their highest nutritional content. So I hope you could take advantage of some of these things. As always, we have a lot to do today. I'm going to make one sheet pan meal, which I think is a great time now that September is right around the corner at the end of the week. So starting to think about it's not quite fall yet, but we are back to school, but we still have some summer produce. We don't want to rush the season yet with all of the butternut squash and all those things that I'm sure we'll talk about in September and October. But right now, let's take advantage of some of the summer harvest that we have and try to make some back to school dishes that are light, that are easy to make, that are convenient, that we could throw into the oven while we're maybe helping somebody with homework or trying to do some after school things, and that they're ready. Or other things like we're going to make some things today, a spinach and quinoa bowl. That's a great standalone dish. It's very balanced in carbs and protein, but if we add another protein to it, it's even better for a lunch. There'll be 4 portions, so that would be a very nice lunch prep. You could pair it nicely with maybe a piece of grilled salmon, a pack of tuna, some grilled chicken, anything like that would be really nice. Those are all good options to have around. Let me just make sure that everything's good here. So that would be a very nice base. The other thing that we're making is a kale and bell pepper salad with a spicy peanut dressing. Kale is great right now. It's been coming in since early spring when it's cool out. And if you're lucky enough, it lasts all summer and even into the fall. So we'll see a lot of that fresh. Today, we're going to be using the curly variety, pairing it with a red pepper and making a real nice peanut dressing to go with it. Something different. We don't always do that, but I like to do it because peanuts are a legume. And remember, when we're following our Mediterranean eating plan, the #1 recommended eating pattern, anti-inflammatory benefits, we want to have legumes, beans, peas, garbanzo beans, black beans, all just think of all the bean family, plus peanuts are still in there too. So that's a great way to get the legumes in there as well. And we're I mentioned the sheet pan dinner. We're going to make a teriyaki chicken and vegetable sheet pan dinner. And the nice thing about this is I have on all the recipes are on the website. But this one, I'm using chicken breast today. You could also use chicken thighs. You could use pork tenderloin. You could use pork chops. I have been using this marinade. This is one of my favorite marinades. I've been making it it has to be over 20 years. When I found like the base for this, and I've tinkered it over the years to make sure that it's nice and healthy for us. But it's a great marinade on chicken, beef, pork, even shrimp too, but just a short amount of time on shrimp. I've also done it on salmon, but I also like to marinate zucchini in this separately, of course, from our chicken, so we don't have cross-contamination. But I like to separate that. I like to grill those zucchini after they've been marinating. They take to the marinade real well, and they grill so nicely. And the addition to some of the ingredients we have in there just caramelize so well on that zucchini and just takes it up a notch. So it's a real nice accompaniment to your meals. And the other thing that we're going to make is a roasted Brussels sprouts. Now, we've roasted Brussels sprouts so many times in class before. They're one of my favorite foods, superfood as well. And I think that we would all like some more recipes on there. In addition to when you dine out, you frequently see the Brussels sprouts that are done in maybe a balsamic glaze, which could be adding a lot of sugar. It depends on how that glaze is made, but some can be very high in sugar. We've made one in class before without the addition of brown sugar, so it's a little bit better. And there's also some store-bought ones too, but again, trying to watch that sugar. So today, and also sometimes I find when we're doing these things, we're trying to mask the taste of Brussels sprouts for those people that don't care for them. But today we're going to do a walnut oil, which is hard to find. I had some in my pantry. You may need to go to a different store. I try not to do that too much in class. I try to use things that are available, but I do like the walnut oil. It does have a smoke point that will allow you to roast it. And of course, since walnuts have the omega fatty 3 acids, so does walnut oil. And I think it gives it a nice nutty taste. And we're going to pair that with fresh lemon zest to make a nice and light Brussels sprout dish. So that's another thing that we're going to have today. So let's get started. A lot to do. We always try to be ambitious with the number of recipes that are presented. Let's get those things into the oven. So let's get our chicken dish out of the way so we could, I just took that out of the refrigerator, so I don't want to risk any contamination or illness, foodborne illness. So let's get our pan. And I like to grab a larger pan for this, and you could do it any way you like. And I took the liberty before class to mix up my marinade. And the recipe is on the website, but I'll go over it again. It's 1/2 cup of olive oil, 1/2 cup of a reduced sodium, either teriyaki or soy sauce, either one can be used, a tablespoon of brown sugar, a tablespoon of vinegar. And you could use, I typically use a white vinegar, but you could use balsamic, you could use apple cider, any type that I wouldn't use red wine, but the other two should be fine. And a dash of red pepper. The recipe on my website says a pinch. Sometimes I do as much as a 1/4 teaspoon because I do like to have a little bit of spice. Garlic powder or 2 cloves of garlic crushed, ginger powder, or probably 1 to 2 teaspoons of fresh grated ginger. I find that sometimes, even when I have fresh on hand, I do like to use the powder for this recipe because it doesn't, it'll stick onto our vegetables and our chicken just a little bit better. So I have all of those things in there. So I'm going to give this a stir. And I didn't marinate this before class because I just wanted to demonstrate. Let me get some of my things moved aside here, my Brussels, that prep out of the way. So let's bring our chicken over. I'll adjust my camera so you can see the chicken thighs. You could use chicken breast. I like to use chicken breast as often as possible because they are lower in saturated fat. And if you are watching your cholesterol, if you do have a cholesterol level that is elevated, and remember, we're trying to get that cholesterol under 200, trying to keep the LDL under 100, and trying to keep that HDL up a little bit higher. Above 50 is great. Above 60 is almost a protective factor against some of the risk for cardiovascular disease. So if you do have a, we always would say, if you have another risk factor for cardiovascular disease, that really does cancel one out. It's a very positive marker. So anyhow, I like to use chicken breast. I like to use shrimp, even swordfish, salmon. I've done several different fishes on here. So let me just adjust the camera and I will put that down. And again, I'm going to just stir this up and pour it over our chicken just like that. Give it a little stir in there. And again, this could have sat overnight. So for class, I'd like you to be able to see some of the things that we're doing. So I don't always have them try to do as much as I can. And then you can use any vegetables that you like. So when I'm thinking about class today, I wanted to go with some colorful things. I think that sometimes there's more acceptance with the colorful vegetables from the rest of our family. Remember, we do eat with our eyes too. Good. It's nice to have a good, I've got vegetables in my bowl. So we're going to do string beans. And if you could see behind me, I have a nice harvest of beans. And we're also going to do some red pepper. And we're going to do, and I've done these all with a julienne cut, which is just a thin strip, because we want all of our vegetables to be uniform like this. So let's demonstrate how we would do the, I'll just move these vegetables aside, and we just have some of our carrot on here still. But for the here, small French. For the onion, we're just going to cut it in half. And you could use as much as you want. And like I said, you could use whatever vegetables you have on hand. I like to make it colorful and just think about some of the ingredients that we're using. The soy sauce, we're going for that Oriental Asian flavor. So some vegetables that are going to take really well to that. Of course, if you think about red peppers, the beans, onions, mushrooms, and we want to think about when we're doing our sheet pan dinners, we want to think about, we want to keep it uniform in size. So we're just going to do the julienne here, just like that. We want to make these, the onion, because there's many ways we could have cut them, but we want to keep them the same size or the same shape rather as our peppers and string beans. So they'll all be julienne, okay? So that's just to keep it consistent. And why do we want to do that? Because when they're the same size and they're the same shape, we're going to get even cooking, and they should all be done around the same time. And that's the goal with the sheet pan dinners. You don't want to have to take off the vegetable of mushroom at one time and cauliflower and Brussels at another, because it's just going to, the sheet pan dinner should be nice and easy. It shouldn't be complicated. It should be stick it in at the same time and remove it at this, everything at the same time. That doesn't have to be, but you know, that will really help free up time in the kitchen. So we have equal amount here of our different vegetables, and I'm going to just add them here. Again, olive oil, teriyaki sauce, brown sugar, vinegar, garlic powder, ginger powder, and some crushed red pepper. We're going to toss that together. Then we're going to put it all on our tray. And again, you could use chicken thighs. Off of them, but look, we have a nice variety here. And we're just going to arrange that on our sheet pan. Take our cutting board out of the way. And I just took, you know, I wouldn't recommend doing the chicken in strips. We're going to roast this on convect at 400 degrees. So that should be a nice high heat to get everything roughly done at the same time. But you do want to check that the internal temperature of our chicken is 160 to ensure to protect it against any foodborne illness and keep it out of that temperature danger zone. So I'm just going to add a little bit over here just so our pan here. Okay, and then we're going to take our vegetables, just put them on the other side. Look how beautiful this looks. And again, look how nice and uniform all of our vegetables are. You don't want to have too much liquid on here, just enough so it doesn't scorch your pan, but we don't want it swimming in juice. That will steam it, and it's not going to give us that nice crisp flavor. And we could take a peek at this while it's cooking. If we find that it does have too much liquid, we could always drain a little bit off. So let me get that in the oven, and we will start on our next item. that'll get started. And then we're going to want to start our Brussels sprouts. Let me adjust the camera. We're going to want to start our Brussels sprouts so those could get into the oven too. So let's just talk about our chicken dish. We had red peppers and we had string beans. Both of those are nice and high in fiber. Remember, we want to get anywhere from 25 to 35 grams of fiber per day. And I was just going to say that men are on that higher end, 35 grams a day, women probably 25 grams. And again, it could be, if you're, depending on where your calories are, if you're a teenage boy or a young adolescent male and you're having more than, maybe 3,000 calories a day, of course, that number is going to go up proportionately. Just like if you are later in life and you're having approximately 1,200 calories a day, it can be very hard to get 25 grams. You want to do your best to get there. And the best way to do it is 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. For as far as the peppers and the beans go, somewhere between 1/2 and 1 cup would be a serving. And that's just a great way to get it in. And we're going to get it. We have some other dishes here as well. So it's good to try to get, if you have to get 5 servings, think about that. Make sure you're budgeting throughout the day. At breakfast, that's a great opportunity to get a fruit or a vegetable, maybe 2 more at lunch, 2 more at dinner, but it does take some careful planning. So you want to make sure that you do that. So let me just rinse off my hands from touching the chicken, and we will get started on our breakfast. And again, we're going to do them in a walnut oil and lemon marinade. So let's get those started. And what I've done so far is I've just halved them, and let me bring those over here. And I just love the ingredients that I'm using in this. It's going to be just bursting with flavor. So anyhow, let's make our marinade first. And that is going to be our walnut oil, and I have that right here. You can't find walnut oil, you could always just use regular olive oil. Maybe you put some walnuts in a food processor if you're still going for that flavor, and they can toast along with the Brussels sprouts. You might want to put them in at the last 5 minutes of cooking if you're cooking on that 400-degree oven, so they don't burn on you for you. Okay, so we have our walnut oil. We have our shallot. Shallot is a member of the lily family, also where garlic and onions come from. In here, and our lemon zest and lemon juice and Dijon mustard, and we're going to whisk this there. And we just have about a teaspoon of the mustard, and we're gonna whisk that all together. Let me turn this down. So, whoops, apologize. So you could see. And then we're going to toss our Brussels sprouts in here. And I have just, I've used fresh Brussels sprouts, which are really nice this time of year. And I've just quartered them so they're uniform size. And a little stir. Make sure they get coated with the shallot. And I'm going to wait to salt and pepper these until they come out. I think we have enough on here. We could always adjust that. Them on our sheet pan. Nice single layer. And we will get these tossed in the oven. Again, we're going for that uniform size. so they all cook evenly. You don't want something to cook quicker or have it done, of course, some might brown differently than others, depending on your oven and depending on the pan. But you don't want to have it that some are completely cooked and some are not done inside. Yeah, darn, it's really sizzling in there, but it sounds wonderful. And it's good to get it nice in a preheated oven so it just starts cooking right away. It's sizzling. You want to make sure that you always do that. Probably 10 minutes. Depends how high you want your oven to get. I know when you're cooking at 400 degrees or 500 degrees, it's a good idea to get that started sooner than later. And then when you put your food right into the oven, it's ready to go. And if you didn't do that, if you forget to preheat up your oven, while we were prepping our chicken and vegetables, you could always stick the pan in the oven for just a little bit, maybe 3 to 5 minutes, just to get it hot, and then go ahead and put your chicken on and vegetables in there, and then it will sear and get a nice little crust on there. So let me just move this aside, and we'll start working on our next item. Okay, up next we have our kale salad. And let's do our mushroom and quinoa bowl, because if we do that, then there's some sautéing involved. So why don't I get that going? We're going to heat some. I'll bring my prep over. So our prep is, I'll adjust the camera. We have about 2 pounds of spinach, and it looks like a ton of spinach, but when you're cooking this, how quickly it cooks down. You could also use escarole, you could use kale, but we're using a kale in another dish today, so I thought, well, why don't I use spinach, just something different. And then we also have the rest of our ingredients. We have olive oil, some garlic, and Parmesan. Just adjust that for you. What we're going to do is we're going to heat up our olive oil and then do our spinach and then add some garlic. And then we're going to add some mushrooms to it. And my mushrooms, I'm sorry, I left over here. So I'm using the exotic mushroom blend. I love using this blend of mushrooms. Remember, our mushrooms are high in folic acid, great source of there. They also have some fiber. They're also very low in calories. So it's just a really good low carb, non-starchy vegetable to add to our pattern, which is really good. And that's what I like about that. So we'll add our oil. And then we're going to saute our spinach. So this is going to be fun, trying to add all this spinach, and then it'll slowly cook down. Now I'm just going to add a little bit at a time. And I would, there's some, like I said, we'll just add some, let it cook down. We'll just do this in batches, because even though this looks like a lot, it's going to cook down very quickly. What I was going to say is you don't need to go to the expense of baby spinach when we're doing this. You could just do regular spinach. It'll hold its shape just a little bit more. It doesn't necessarily need to wilt as much. So let me get my lid out, and we'll get that to cook down a little bit. Let that go on real low, and we'll talk about the health benefits of spinach. So I love spinach. I think it's a great addition to our diet. It's rich in vitamin K. It also has folic acid and, of course, vitamin A and vitamin C. And it's also very high in fiber. And because it cooks down and because it does not have much of it lends itself to accept the flavors of other seasonings or other ingredients that are in your dish. That's what I like about it. So it's a great addition to smoothies in the morning. It's a great way to get that first serving of vegetables in a day. If you put 2 cups of spinach, you kind of compact it into your shaker cup when you're making your smoothie. It's a great way. It might make, the only problem is it might make your smoothie a different color, but if the taste should still be the same. And I just think it's a great filler for that. It could also be sauteed and put into other dishes that you don't always expect it. It could be put in soups and stews, and again, just add some more fiber and some more flavor. It'll take on the other flavors. Sorry about that. And let's just give this a little stir. It's already starting to cook down. Probably could even use a wok or something. Something that's very deep to put it in there. And I'm just going to add a little bit more, another handful. And again, we'll just keep doing that in batches. So while that's cooking, we could start on our kale salad. And we could make our dressing first, but let's just prep our kale. Let's do that. And nice and low. I just don't want it to catch for us. Okay, so the next thing we're going to make is our kale and bell pepper and carrot salad. That's going to be the one with the spicy peanut dressing. Let me put this aside. So let's get this out. So I have the kale here. I already washed it before class, but we're going to take out this rib. Nobody wants to eat this rib. I mean, you could probably leave it in your smoothies and not have an issue with it, but and if you're sauteing it, it's another thing. But if you're having it in a salad, you're going to want to discard that. So let me going to make our salad in. And we're just going to give it a cut, and we'll just keep moving those ribs. And it doesn't need to be cut. You could just pull it right off of there. And we'll just keep putting that in the bowl. And kale is a nice addition to our smoothies as well. And you could use, there's flat leaf, there's so many different varieties. There's purple, there's curly leaf, there's Russian. So a lot of different options. You could feel free to experiment with those. It's a great source of vitamin K. It's a great source of, kale is one of the few things, and when we were talking about it earlier, about the Mediterranean diet, and the great part about the Mediterranean diet, including 2 to 3 servings of fish per week, the kale is the only vegetable that has those omega-3 to a small degree of kale and walnut. Pulling this off here. So you just want to keep removing these stems. That. So when we think of the omega-3 fatty acids, we think of salmon, tuna, cod, mackerel, herring, and sardines, flax seeds, hemp seeds, chia seeds, and kale. And again, the plant sources aren't as rich as the fish sources, but they're still an easy way to get that in there. And if you keep having that as a part of your pattern, you'll get the benefits out of that. And 1 teaspoon of hemp seeds, chia seeds, or flax seeds will give you the benefit of 2,300 milligrams. So that's good to know too. That's a good source. And when we're talking about making a smoothie, I think we even did that in one of our, we made a smoothie. We had the spinach or the kale in there. And then at the, we also threw in chia seeds. So we're just getting that double punch. So when we think about it, if you don't have a great appetite and your food needs to be nutrient dense, it's a good time to see how much nutrition can I pack into something small if I don't have my appetite. So we want to think about maybe some full fat dairy products if we're making our smoothie, maybe whole milk, maybe some protein powder, a cup or two of spinach, and throwing in the hemp or the chia seeds in there. Of course, you don't want to make it too thick. And I don't think that would do it. You might want to add a banana or an avocado just to get it creamy. But again, trying to pack all that nutrition that you can in there. So it checks all the boxes, and you're starting the day with probably over 10 grams of fiber and 20 grams of proteins. It's just a great start. And if you find that morning is your time where you have your best appetite, that's a great time to take advantage of this. Also, if you find that, afternoon, maybe around, 2 or 3 o'clock, not to interfere with your dinner, but well after lunch, there's something to sip on, that smoothie could really help there too. So we have our beautiful kale. Let me knock down the spinach a little bit. Yeah, it's wilting very nicely. Okay. And I'm just going to tear this up, and now we will add our, we have 2 carrots that I sliced real thin and a red pepper. And we'll set that aside. Make our peanut dressing. So let me get my processor over here. Check on my very quickly. We need about another minute or 2 on our chicken, so we'll hurry up and get our peanut dressing going. So I have my food processor ready to go. And let me demonstrate. Funny story. I had a friend of mine who was intimidated by her food processor, almost afraid to use it. Something like what I was with my old espresso machine. Because you could really get hurt on these things if you're not careful. So let me adjust the camera and I will show you. So this is goes to, and it could be very difficult sometimes to remember how it assembles. So we have our base here that has the motor. You have your bowl. I happen to have an 11 cup bowl. You can slide it on and you'll see it. It fits a certain way. And then we're just going to push it over till it snaps in place. This part here is what engages into the motor and turns your blade. So and then we put our blade on, and some of them come with different attachments, and you see how all of a sudden it just nestles on the right way, and you'll feel when it's in place. Then you put your lid on, you put it on, and sometimes what I remember is the brand name of my lid will always face me. So you want to take a mental picture of that for later use on yours. What does yours look like when it's all assembled correctly? So then once we push this over and you hear that click, once there's a little arm on here that clicks and to engage this and allows that to push down, which generates the motor. So I don't want to, that would be called putting it on dry. If I were to use the blade, you don't want to do that. So let's add our ingredients and we will whisk them all around. So today we're going to do peanuts, and I have a half cup of peanuts. We're going to do most of them, and we're going to save some for our garnish at the end. And we're also going to put some brown sugar in here and just a little bit of salt on the peanuts. Okay, and then vinegar, and I have apple cider vinegar. Okay, and we're going to pulse this, and this is going to make an emulsion. So what an emulsion is we have everything in here when you're making a dressing. This is also goes for mayonnaise and for a hollandaise sauce. We're going to let's since I can't talk over the food processor, what I'm going to do is while this is pulsing and while the blade is circulating, we're going to slowly drizzle the oil in here. That way we won't break, it will become emulsified. And then you've heard break the emulsion. If you don't do this at the right speed, it will break and it won't make a nice dressing for you. So let's try to do this. I'm going to drizzle in the soup right here, this slow. Oh, is this beautiful? Okay, let me scrape and just make sure that we have it. See, it made that beautiful emulsification. So yes, we do still have some chunks of peanut, but the oil and the vinegar is made an emulsification. It makes for a nice, thick, creamy dressing. Sometimes you'll see egg yolks used in an emulsification, which is great. We didn't have to do that today. We're just going to keep it nice and just our oil and vinegar. And this is a nice, creamy, satisfying dressing. So that's just what I love about this recipe. It's nice and it's fairly easy. It's a nice dish to take. You're going somewhere. Let's just arrange our stuff on. Oh, can you see? Excellent. All right, now I'm just going to let's portion a small amount out. I don't want to dress the whole thing right now because I don't everybody have enough people around to eat this. So I'm excited to the day when we could have person classes so your words and talk about it. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm just going to undo this. Look how nice and thick this is. And again, we don't want to put too much dressing on, so that's a good way. Sometimes it's nice to put it around the edge. And then we're just going to take some peanuts and some fresh scallions that I have chopped and ready to go. And this is going to go so nicely with this dressing. So that is our kale and bell pepper salad. And we could also too, we could add ginger to this. We could add some garlic to it, but I think it's best. I think this is a really nice base. And, this is, this particular portion, this makes 8, this amount we made today. And each serving is going to be about 140 calories, 12 grams of fat. And remember, that's coming from our peanuts and the oil. 8 carbs, almost 2 fibers, and 2 protein. And since we use the unsalted peanuts, only 164 milligrams of sodium. The recommendation for sodium is 2,300 milligrams a day per less if you're not on a restriction or you're not sodium sensitive. So definitely part of a healthy diet. And it's good to know that we could just add tuna, salmon, chicken. So this base, our nice little salad base, especially kale. You know, you might find that if you prepare a salad earlier in the week, maybe it gets wilted. But this is a really nice base. It should hold well for you all week, allow you to add your protein for either a satisfying lunch or dinner. And it makes it really nice to go, you know, if you have these things prepared ahead of time for family nights, meal prep. So let me just set this aside and we will take out our chicken. So this looks fantastic. Just gonna set this here, move our dressing aside. And what we're gonna do is take the temperature of our chicken. Let me show you how gorgeous this looks. And we want our chicken to be an internal temperature of 160. Our vegetables are cooked and they're not, while they have wilted and browned a little bit, they're still tender crisps to me. 164. So, and now it's up to almost 180. So, done. It has a nice crust on it. Let's get that on our platter. And you could do this two ways. We could put it on the side. We could put it on top of our vegetable. And everything has been cooked to above 160 degrees. So we could use this juice from all over the pan, whether the chicken was on the side, everything has been cooked thoroughly and heated to the correct temperature. So don't have any problems with that. And our vegetables are nicely browned. And there you have a nice weeknight dinner that took us marinated overnight. The vegetables don't have to marinate for too long. And then we had that in the oven for about 20 minutes. So there's a really satisfying meal. Just take some planning ahead of time. But that's, you know, for you to be successful, I think that is the key. And those look beautiful. Some are nicely, most of them are nicely brown. And I'm just going to pierce them with a fork just to make sure that they're ready to go. Oh, and I could smell the lemon in the shallot. So just pierce one. Actually, they could go in. There's some of them are brown, but and they're tender. I think I would like to put them in just a little longer. But you could see just a nice light dish. And boy, those shallots look so great on there. And they just get a beautiful pink color. So it's like a pink and green. Beautiful. Okay, so let's finish. Let me set this aside and let's finish up our spinach and quinoa and mushroom salad. So let's put our chicken over here. And our spinach is cooking down rather nicely. Very nice. Okay, I'm just gonna set it, keep setting it to the side. Let me show you what it looks like. I'm gonna keep setting it to the side and making room for more spinach to go in here. and wilt and cook down. All right, so while that is cooking down, I did the quinoa before class, and I just used a regular organic white quinoa. Still has a lot of health benefits. And what we did was made 1 cup of quinoa and 2 cups of water. So this is what we have for our yield. And we're going to go ahead and add this to our bowl. Bowl that I'm going to use. Actually, we could just put it while we're waiting for our spinach. And again, this could be a weeknight meal. If you add a protein to it, it could make a great lunch for prep. Here. While that's in there, I'm going to go ahead and add our mushrooms. And just a little bit more oil. Or left in my can. We'll add the garlic to that. And that was just a couple cloves. And once that gets cooking, we will add our mushrooms. All of our spinach now is fully wilted. And it's really cooked down. So right now we have probably a third of what we started with. And I'm going to add our exotic mushroom blend, about 8 ounces. And we'll just keep giving that a stir. We just want to stir it until those mushrooms are cooked nicely. And we have our quinoa, and let's check on our Brussels again. Let's try to pull those out and see if those are good to go. Okay, so now we have our Brussels sprouts, and we'll just put those on the platter. And you could put a little additional, get all this salad on here. A little bit more oil here. Okay, so we have our Brussels sprouts, and we're almost ready for our spinach and quinoa dish to come together. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stir this all together and just have this in our skillet. And then we could arrange it on here. We have a lot more spinach done. Turn this around. And this one, we are going to add a little bit of Parm cheese. And just get it back onto a pan. And again, this could stand alone. It's really nicely balanced. Let me tell you, so 175, this will make 4 servings. That this was 2 pounds of spinach and 8 ounces of the exotic mushroom blend and a cup of quinoa. So for that, if we divide that by 4 portions, it's 175 calories, 8 grams of fat, 17 carb, 12 protein, and 6.5 grams of fiber. So that makes for a really nice carb balanced dish standing alone. And if we add another, if we add 2 ounces of chicken, that's another 14 grams of protein onto that. So a really nice quinoa just does such a great job at delivering, a lot of taste. It adds texture and it adds a lot of fiber. So it's a really great addition to like a carb balanced meal. And this just looks amazing. I wish you were here to taste it. But oh my goodness, all these dishes today, I'm really excited about them because I think they could be really a great part of your fall pattern, these next couple of weeks when we're getting back into that routine of cooking for our family. And I'm just going, let me put this down. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of Parm on here. Add another little dimension of flavor. Oh my gosh. So we have our spinach and mushroom quinoa, and I have on my website that's a bowl. So you could put this could be a really nice base. Let's just do that. Let's try that. And we have our Brussels sprouts and we have our salad right here. Put that up. We have everything so far. And then we have our chicken dish. So just imagine if we took a bowl. Let's do that right now. We'll just make a little chicken bowl. Can be a lot of fun. And I think they are only, let me grab a knife. See what my favorite bowl. Is it already? Okay. One. So let's just try this. Just because we are seeing so much with bowls lately, we could always just take, remember, like a fourth was the serving. This is a really hearty and nutritious, lunch or dinner, however you want to look at it. And what's nice is these can be meal preps and use, and we could just take our just going to look how nice that they get it cut a little better. Did not have everything, but you could see how that would just make a really nice and nutritious bowl. So just another option. Again, we could put a chicken on the salad. We could put a chicken with we could put something with the Brussels sprouts, just some really good, really nutrient dense, packed bases to add other proteins to them. They could stand alone. Again, a lot of today we talked about our vegetables that we use today, all rich in vitamin A, rich in vitamin K, and folic acid and fiber and vitamin C and more A in the carrots. And between that, and then we have our green beans and our red peppers that we had on our fiber in the Brussels sprouts. I mean, we're just packed today. So I love when we have these kind of meals. I love how colorful it is, and I love how easy these things come together. And with just a little bit of planning in mind, you could really serve up your family or do your own meal prep for yourself and get a nice variety, because that variety of food, that's what keeps our gut happy and healthy. And as we have all this high fiber that feeds the good bacteria in our gut, that helps our immune system, it helps it helps, the fiber binds cholesterol and, keeps that cholesterol at a healthy level. It also exercises our gut. It keeps us regular. Fiber has so many benefits. So we have a lot of great high fiber products here today. Let me grab our and the quinoa as well. So we have a nice variety, and variety is what is keeps us on the path to wellness. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had a great time. I hope you learned something, and all the recipes will be on the website. And don't hesitate to reach out to me if you need any modifications. Thank you so much and have a great day.